So it takes a level of humility to be able to accept and admit that you might be wrong, and definitely a level of honesty to admit when you're telling the stories, and a level of courage to be able to then course correct, whatever that may look like. So it's going to be tough. Most people don't do that. Most people listening to this show will not take action on it. That's the reality.
What if I told you that letting go could save your relationship? Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is a simple methodology and a conversation I recently had with one of the men that I work with privately one-on-one. And it's this idea of letting go. And we're going to talk about it in more depth and then show you how you can apply it not only to your marriage, but also to other aspects of your life. Tim, as always, thanks for being here, man. These last few podcasts we've done have just absolutely been a blast.
Yeah, they have. I love being here with you.
It's funny, for guys that watch this on YouTube, they'll see the introduction that our marketing team made for the podcast. I don't know if you've seen the recent one they did, but it throws back to podcasts where you and I have done like 6 years ago or so, from hairstyles to looks to goatees, no goatee, beard, no beard. It's a blast to think that, man, I think we're going to be at, by the time I'm going to ballpark it, and Colton can let us know, but it's going to be about 870 or so podcast by the time this one airs. 868, wow. He's shouting from the corner. Wow. So 868 times we've shown up to record these podcasts to bring value back to the men. Now we have some revisits, so what have you, but it's awesome.
It's epic. Yeah.
And today I want to talk about the power of letting go. Mm-hmm. So I was talking to this gentleman, and he is in a state where his marriage is great, business great, kids great, health great. He's crushing in all 5 territories. And as we were digesting what this shift was, because 6 months prior, it wasn't like that. The house was on fire, right? Everything was burning down. He wanted to get divorced. He wasn't doing it for religious reasons. In fact, he was hoping his wife would cheat. He was begging and praying his wife would cheat. Very religious man, because that would be the only way he could save face to exit the marriage. So he's trying to create this situation where his wife cheats, because that's how bad it was for him. Now his daughters, his kids, they're not listening to him. It's all burning down. He's got all this sage advice, yet they're not listening. Business crumbling. This man, it was worth quite a bit of money, but everything was crumbling around. And he let his health go. 6 months later, everything's firing on all cylinders. What did he do? He let go of what he thought his stories around his wife were and his stories around his kids. And so we went through a bunch of processes to get here, but I'm going to give the guys today a shortcut. And I know the Surrender Experiment is a book that you love, and that kind of concept of surrendering, but this idea of letting go. And so what I told him to do is I said, what would it look like if you just let go of the stories of your wife being nagging? What if you let go of the stories that your wife doesn't love you? What if you let go of the stories that your kids are missing out on your wisdom? They're just being kids. What if you let go of all of these stories for 30 days? Just try it for 30 days. And that's where we started.
Such a powerful concept.
It's a very powerful concept, a very hard one for most men to grasp. Definitely hard at times for me, and a lot of guys who are business leaders, we might have some control issues. I've been told that once or twice in business, I might have a few control issues where we know the quality. We know that we've gotten here because I can outwork anybody. I can pick up myself by my own bootstraps. All these stories we tell ourselves. And then when we get into relationship, especially, that's something you can't outwork.
I have seen, and I don't want to take this in this direction necessarily, but it's true. The men that I have seen let go at the biggest degrees have been the guys who go through the reset.
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
Because that process in itself is a process of letting go. And there is no theory, there is no book, there's nothing that replaces or even replicates being put in a situation where you literally have to let go because it has to be experienced, and in the process of it being experienced, you learn that it's okay. You learn to find trust in yourself. You learn to find confidence in yourself. You learn to become secure in yourself. All these things, but it's got to be experienced. It's much harder. Obviously, you've done a great job with this guy, and he's obviously done the same thing. He's learned it through actually doing it. But the fast track to this, which obviously the reset happens over a number of days, the activation method for self includes it, which is a number of weeks, but that's a fast track, right? And it's incredible to see the men on the other side of it. That's why they look different. It's why they have color in the skin. It's why they look younger. It's the before and after pictures we take. I mean, you know what they look like. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And this guy, he came to the program to save his marriage, right? And now he has. And part of his process of saving his marriage was letting go of the stories. We have so many men inquire about our programs, and we do have, there's an application, right, to get in, and you speak to the advisors because we need to make sure it's a good fit for you and a good fit for us, right, to go through the program. That's why we have such a high rating and a high success rate with the men, which is we know our methodology works, but it doesn't work for everybody, right? There's certain guys if you're not willing to put in the work, it's not going to work for you. It's not something that just happens by osmosis. You actually have to be a doer. You have to be someone who accepts to do the work and look into themselves. And this guy did, and it was a process to get him there, right? This idea of like, hey, Doug, he would say to me like, so you just want me to drop the stories? You don't get it. She is a bitch, or she is this, or she's doing these things. And maybe she was. But do you think the lens, when he's looking at his wife, hoping that she'll cheat on him so he can divorce her, do you think she picks up on that energy? Do you think his kids pick up on the fact that he's resentful because he's so smart? This guy's genius level intelligent. Because he's got so much wisdom and they're not listening to it, do you think his kids pick up on his resentment of that? Now, he loved his wife. He loves his kids. It just wasn't working for him because he had stacked so many stories on this that he couldn't use the practices. What's even funnier, you're going to laugh at this. So at this point, fast forward to today. He told me today, I had a call with him. He said, Doug, I've been working with you for 1 year and 9 days. It was great. And he said, the stuff in the activation method for relationships, because he went through that program first with Mark Smith, I believe, who's running the Alpha Reset next door for 9 men there. He goes, that shit works. He's like, if I would just got out of my own way and dropped my stories sooner, this whole thing would have been expedited, right? This whole process. And what I find, Tim, is the smarter a man is, the harder it is for him to let go because he solidifies the stories and then finds evidence of why his stories are true.
100%. This guy hasn't done a reset yet, has he?
He has not done a reset.
Do you think his journey would have been expedited had he done one?
100%. He was scared to do a reset. He was scared.
Yeah.
He was supposed to show up to a reset 2 months ago, and this was his last chance. So I don't know if he knew this. I told him, but I don't know if he knew this because he wants to come to one. He can't. I was like, look, if you book one and you don't show up, like you pull out for whatever, insert the excuse. We've heard it all, man. Like at this point, we've been doing this for 8 years, thousands of men. We've heard every excuse under the book. And as valid as some of these excuses are, they are excuses. You can find a way. So his opportunity, his door is closed. Now, will that door open up a year from now for him? Potentially. But right now, we put so much time and energy and resources into getting the men across the line at the reset. It is such an intensive experience. And I love this guy. And I would tell this right to his face. And he listens to the show. So he's going to hear this. And he would validate everything I'm saying. He knows that I will tell him the truth. Not because I'm a jerk, but I tell him the truth because I love him. And that's what I think love is. I will tell you the truth despite what implications there might be. Because he might not like me. He's not going to like hearing these things, potentially. But if he comes from a place of love, a place of caring, and a place of wanting to help somebody, then it's digestible, right? You respect that. But this guy, what I respect is he finally took him some time, but he finally got to the place where he tried this idea of letting go of the stories, and he reaped the rewards.
Yeah. I just wonder how much quicker his journey would have been as well had he have.
I've been a lot quicker.
And the irony is, to go to the reset would have had to let go.
Well, that's it. But I don't want to get lost on the fact of how quick it could be. We have guys that save their marriage within the first week, right? They literally save their marriage in the first week of our program. We have guys that go to the Alpha Reset and they come back, every one of them a changed man. That's what they'll say. We do anonymous surveys. What I want to highlight about this guy is not the fact that he didn't come to a reset, not the fact that it took him a little longer than may have, but the fact that he kept working on it. He didn't give up. Most people give up. Go look at the gym. The whole industry, the fitness industry, is made on you giving up. They make money. If everybody, Planet Fitness is one of the biggest gym chains in the United States of America. They have pizza night, bagel night for their staff. They literally do, right? They have done everything they can to turn away serious gym goers. Their equipment is like a pinkish purple. You've worked out in one. We worked out one in New Hampshire. We were doing reset. It's purple and like pink, and you can't drop weights. And like the stuff that serious gym goers would be into, they've made it so those people won't come. Why? Because they don't want you to show up. They want you to pay the guilty tax of your membership over and over again. So to me, it's the people who show up. Even when they drop out consistently, I want to praise those guys and praise this guy. And this is what happened for the idea of letting go of stories. I think for a lot of guys, it's really hard to let go of the stories, because if my wife isn't a bitch, if my wife isn't the problem, could that problem be me?
I'm with you. It's definitely difficult to let go of the stories. It's really difficult to let go of them, especially if you're trying to use willpower. And maybe I'm being a bit blindsided because I just think about getting to the root of it. And I think about, what could a guy do? And obviously, hence the reset. And I think that way because it is so hard to do it without being put in a situation where you literally have to practice doing it because you're with a group of guys over several days and the environment and the container is set up.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this episode, but the reality is if you are watching or listening to this right now, then you are looking to better yourself. And I applaud you. You're one of my people. And I want to give you the opportunity of taking massive action. So if you haven't joined the activation method yet, it's our flagship program. Do what thousands of other businessmen just like you have done and take action. Be one of the 1%ers that actually does the work and takes action. There'll be a link in the description that'll take you right to a page that'll just give you more information. There is no obligation. Just go check it out and see if it's a good fit for you. All right, let's get back to this episode.
Whereas if you're at home, after getting off a coaching call with yourself or myself, and you're telling yourself a story, it becomes increasingly hard. You've only got yourself to hold yourself accountable to. So yeah, I mean, this guy, I absolutely acknowledge and praise him, right? The fact is he keeps showing up. He keeps stepping to the line. He keeps being willing to take risks and be vulnerable and be courageous and lean into it. Because look, most people don't do that. Most people listening to this show will not take action on it. That's the reality.
We can look at the stats. We know how many people download the shows across with the clips and things. And I don't want to call those. I want to call those guys forward, because I used to be one of those guys in different areas of my life where you go from podcast. I call it emotional masturbation or educational masturbation. Excuse me. Where they go from one thing to another, just learning, get a nugget, but don't apply it. I can't think of his nickname, so I'm just gonna call him by his first name. Donnie does a great job of taking notes of all the podcasts and posting them. He does a fantastic job. That's an example of someone who's applying, right? At their own pace, but applying. And I think that's the key is you got to run this race at your own pace and your own time.
Oh, for
and
sure,
figure out what it's worth to you. So coaching one-on-one with me is $250,000 for a year. This guy's been working with me for a year and 9 days. He told me that. And it's been great. He renewed, right? That's kind of the proof in the pudding in the coaching model. Like, do they renew? And I only share that with the audience, not to impress them, but to impress upon them. It doesn't have to be that way. You could choose to let go to an alpha reset, right? do something like that, have an experience over a course of 4 days, which is a lot less than a year and 9 days, and actually get the results a lot quicker. Some people aren't ready for that for whatever reason. And so it does require, if you're not ready, more time, more capital. Some of you guys listening to this right now are paying the price of time because you're just going to listen to this. Hopefully you get something from this that you can apply to your life. Something Tim says, something I say. And then what you're missing, though, is compressing time. That's what the Alpha Reset does to me. Boom, let's just get there quickly. It's 4 days. No one's ever said the Alpha Reset's easy, not one person. In fact, one of the volunteers, Oracle's in there. I remember day one of his Alpha Reset, him looking at me, Doug, I've heard this all before. This is nothing new. I said, just wait. By the end of day one, let alone 2 and 3, his mind was just blown. And now here's this guy, an amazing guy. He's been in the program, the Brotherhood, for over 2 years now. I think he's in year 2. And he's flown out here, left his business, his family, to hold space for other men going through this process because it was so transformational for him.
Yeah, and he's an amazing guy.
An amazing guy. And he also had to let go of his stories while he was going through it. I think there's such, what's a word I'm looking, texture, I guess, and this concept of letting go. Now,
There's wisdom in it, right? It takes a lot of wisdom to be able to let go as well.
Strength.
Yeah, strength, awareness, courage. You got to be very honest with yourself in order to be able to let go of the stories, because the ego can be a very strong thing, right? And for a lot of guys, to your point earlier when you talk about the wife, well, if she isn't the problem, it's me. A lot of the guys are going to fight for their story because a lot of the times their identity is built around their story. And but the reality is, if they don't have the result that they want, that story isn't serving them. So it takes a level of humility to be able to accept and admit that you might be wrong, and definitely a level of honesty to admit when you're telling the stories, and a level of courage to be able to then course correct, whatever that may look like. So it's going to be tough, be it tough on yourself or tough on others, not on others, but because you may have to come clean to others, which is also a very courageous thing to do. So it's a very practical thing to be able to do, but it's also a very challenging thing.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's a key to knowing when to let go and not to. There's a strength in that and a wisdom in that. Hence me not liking the book, The Surrender Experiment. Don't like it. The guy just blames everything on letting go, and it's just like, come on, dude. There's so much nuance that gets to be added to that, in my opinion, my not so humble opinion on that one. But also the hardest thing is, or could be, is realizing that when you're holding on, that's what's slowing you down. Right? You're holding on for control. You're holding on for something. You're holding on tightly and not letting go, not jumping in with 2 feet. So for this guy, he did, by creating these stories about his wife and about his kids, but and other things, but these stories that to him, they were facts. They were indisputable. He's a very black and white guy. Like, in other words, it's this or it's that. There's no in between. When you get him to play in the gray, he's brilliant. He's really creative in that area, but getting him in that area can be a challenge. And so with him, right, these stories were facts. No, Doug, but this happened at this time. This, she said this exactly verbatim, and what have you. When I got him to let go of that, of the animosity or whatever the pretense, and him thinking he knew what the outcome was, all of a sudden his wife softens. Right? He starts using the hidden motives technique that we taught him. All of a sudden she's opening up to him in ways that she never has. And all of a sudden I get on a call with him, Tim. He goes from stressed and anxious, and I get on a call and I'm like, I almost said his name. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, oh yeah, everything's great. I'm like, okay, what's going on? And he's like, I did what you told me to do 6 months ago. I let go. I let go of the stories, and all of a sudden everybody around me is changing. And then he and I both just erupt in laughter, right? Because we both know the irony in all this. We both know nobody's changed. They may have a little bit of a reflection of his energy, but by letting go of our stories, right? If you have a story, guys listening to this, you have a story about your wife not respecting you. Maybe you have a story about how you work so hard and all she does is sit at home with the kids and you deserve more. Or maybe you have a story about your wife's had an emotional affair or a physical affair. What is the power of letting go of those stories and then learning a methodology of being able to wipe the slate clean and start from scratch?
So much power in that.
There really is. And from that place gives you a jump off spot for what I call marriage 2.0. Right? I know when my wife and I were having problems and we were coming back together, we made a conscious effort. And I said, hey, look, what would marriage 2.0 look like? We weren't getting divorced, but let's say we end marriage 1 and we start a marriage anew. What do we want that to be? Let's be in a place of creativity. Let's let go of the old stories of what our marriage used to be or what it could have been or all the past. Let's just dump the past baggage. And if we were to move from today, from this moment, and let go of everything else, what do we want our marriage to be? We decided to call it marriage 2.0. Cool. What does our second marriage look like? And from that place, when we let go of the stories, we were able to paint a beautiful picture of what we wanted, how we wanted to interact, what was acceptable, what were boundaries we could use, right? What are things that were acceptable in our lives? There's certain things for my wife that are unacceptable. For me, it's just normal day conversation. You and I banter all the time back and forth. That's not her thing. She doesn't do well with that. So that's a boundary for her. And I have other boundaries for me, right? And so we started designing these boundaries without the stories, and then we're able to build something very beautiful.
There's a lot of power that exists in the gray.
A ton. I think it's the place to live.
Go that far. But yeah, there's a lot of texture, a lot of richness, right? In the area where we question the assumptions that we have, the most dangerous beliefs that we hold are the ones that aren't questioned.
That's true. That's a good point.
And the gray is where we question them.
Yep.
Gray is where we're open to possibility, where life can really happen. Because otherwise, if you live in the black and white, it just seems like a really strange way to live. As we're talking about in this context, it seems like a very strange way to live because you're just living with presuppositions and assumptions that the answer or the way or what life holds. That's a very boring way to live as well, right? Because where's the spontaneity? Where's the fun? Where's the exploration? Where's the adventure? But when you drop those things and you question the beliefs that you hold and you're able to let go of the stories, it creates space for life to be able to flow into the places where it previously wasn't able to get to.
I love that. Yeah, there's so much there. And this idea of letting go, this idea of the freedom behind letting go. And you can call it surrendering, although I don't like that word. But there is something special with doing it with forethought or foresight and looking forward to the future. So if a man's sitting out there, Tim, right now thinking, this is interesting. I think maybe I do have a lot of stories about my wife. Our marriage isn't working the way I want it to, or stories about my kids. My relationship with my kids aren't working. What's one thing you'd recommend?
Read no. I thought that.
To be fair, you know what? A lot of people like that book, and that's great. And I was talking to, I can't think of his nickname, so I'll just call him Kyle.
Oh yeah.
And we were both going, we hate that book. I don't hate it. I just there's problems with. I have issues with some of the premises in that book. But anyway, we don't have to get into that now. What's one thing people can do?
Consider what they might be missing out on by living in black or white.
Boom. Let's leave it there. I think that's great. Gentlemen, in the moment of insight, we always say take massive action. Tim just gave you an amazing point. What could you be missing right now in your life? The joy, the fulfillment, the woman that you love, the woman you said I do to. What are you missing? The texture, the other colors that are out there. Maybe it's with your kids. Maybe it's just with yourself. What are you missing by trying to be right? I remember a mentor of mine once said, Doug, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Now, of course, I want both, but if I'm going to choose one of them, I'm going to choose happiness each and every time. And gentlemen, that's what I want for you. You're meant for more than just average. And now it's your chance to go out there and get it. We'll see you next time on the TPM show.